Most cooks learn really quickly that measurement matters. A cup doesn't mean a tablespoon or a coffee mug. A cup is an exact measurement. It equals 1/4 of a quart or 8 fluid ounces, if you know what a fluid ounce is. Even cooks who use the pinch of this and dash of that method know that they need to know how much that dash and that pinch really are. Believe me, measurement matters. If you don't believe me, just try some cookies that have a tablespoon of salt rather than a teaspoon of salt. Or just trust me, you really don't want them. Measurement matters. So how do we measure our faith? Most of us have heard, or maybe we've even said, hey, I guess they just didn't have enough faith. We usually say that when something didn't quite turn out the way that maybe we hoped that it would. So how much is enough faith? Jesus spoke on several occasions about the amount of faith. He told his disciples that even faith the size of a mustard seed could move a mountain. He told a Roman soldier that he had more faith than anyone he'd ever met in the entire nation of Israel. In his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus equated worry and anxiety with having little faith. So how much faith is enough? Well, I'm not sure you can have too much faith in Jesus. His power knows no limit. But how much faith do we need to have to live the kind of life that Jesus created us to live? We get a glimpse in the miracle that's described in Mark chapter 7, verse 24 and following. A woman of Greek descent, she lived in an area called Syrian Phoenicia. She came to Jesus begging him to heal her daughter. At first, Jesus seems very cold to the woman. He almost seems like he refuses to do so, but there was something really wonderful going on. Jesus gives this woman an opportunity to show us what real faith is all about. The woman tells Jesus, hey, even a crumb of your power will be enough to heal my daughter. And Jesus tells her to go home, that her daughter had been healed. She returns home and finds what Jesus said was absolutely true. Her daughter was completely well. Something no one else had been able to do. Now the story shares many similarities with the healing of the centurion servant, another miracle that's described in Matthew chapter 8. In that instance, Jesus did another long-distance healing, seeing the faith of this centurion soldier and immediately healing his servant. In this instance, Jesus adds this statement that I mentioned a moment ago in Matthew chapter 8, verse 10. Jesus said, I tell you the truth, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. So what was it about the faith of the woman in Mark chapter 7 or the soldier in Matthew chapter 8? Did they have 2 cups of faith when everybody else just had 1? Obviously, faith isn't measured that way. Else, how could Jesus have described a mustard seed size faith being able to move a mountain? What we can see is that both the woman and the centurion put their faith squarely in Jesus. They tried everything else, and everything else had come up empty. Their only hope was in Jesus. Both came to Jesus in desperation. They knew no one but him had the power to do what they desperately needed. And they were willing to do whatever it took to seek him out. Maybe that's the measure of faith. How desperate we are for Jesus. Is he just another date to fill on the calendar? Or is he our only hope? Is he the only item on our list, or do we have a Jesus and mentality? I'll worship Jesus and I'll work to make a lot of money or to increase my popularity or find pleasure in my life. But oh wait, Jesus, you're right up there at the top. Real faith helps us see what this woman and the centurion soldier saw. That there's not a list. There's nothing else. It's Jesus plus nothing. He is our only hope. It's the faith that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had. You remember those guys from the Old Testament. They'd been stolen from their families, taken to a foreign land. And in that land, a law was passed that everyone had to bow down to a false idol. Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego worshiped the one true God. And when the time came for everybody to bow, they stood tall. They were taken before the king, and he told them, hey, all you got to do is just bow down, and nothing will happen. But if you don't, I have to follow the law. I have to throw you into the fiery furnace. And here's what those three young men said. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Now that's faith. Faith that God could save them, but even if God chose not to, they were going to serve him and him alone. And by the way, God did save them in the midst of the fiery furnace. It's a wonderful story. You see, it's not the size of your faith, but the object of your faith that matters. Jesus and nothing else. This session's recipe is one my family enjoys on a cold winter day. That may not be cold where you are, but I think you're going to like this. It's simple to prepare. It's a crock pot recipe, so a lot of times we'll prepare it on Sunday mornings. It'll be ready for us when we get back from church. I hope you and your family are going to enjoy our recipe for black bean soup.